Alright, this is Math 3, quiz number 6. It was taken on October 9th, 2015. The quiz was out at 36 points. Make sure you need to show all your work in the space provided. If I ever write SW, that means show work. Also, to box your answer so I can identify your work very quickly. Question number 1 means to solve. Solve means to get the variable by itself. Look at the answer. X is by itself. Near the equal sign, I like to draw a line. This tells me the difference between the left and the right-hand side. The common mistake for students here was they thought they could add 5x to the 2x. This is incorrect because you're on one side of the equation. And the reason why I circled is you combine like terms. So a negative 5 and a positive 2 gives me negative 3. Negative 3x plus 4 equals 16. If you got one step correct, I gave you 2 points out of 4. From here, I'm going to move across the equation, across this line. When you go across, that's when you actually do opposites. Positive 4, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. You'll get negative 3x equals 12. Let me zoom in more. 16. And then here you have multiplication. So you'll divide by negative 3 on both sides. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1, so you're left with the x. Positive 12 divided by negative 3 is a negative 4. You got 3 points if you missed your minus sign. Question number, let's go down 2. Question number 2, multiple choice, which means all you have to do is circle it. I have 3 plus 5 plus a negative 4. Well, anytime you have two math operations like this, it has to be reconciled or be fixed. So in this case, when you add a minus 4, it's the same thing as subtracting 4. Well, because if you're doing the order of operations, PEMDAS, I don't see any parentheses or exponents. There's no multiplication or division, so now I'm going to do addition and subtraction as I see them left to right. So therefore, 3 plus 5 gives me 8, and 8 minus 4 is a positive 4. D is your answer for question number 2. Question number 3. You were asked to complete this table below. So you're going to complete the table. Notice how if I go down, I'm just adding 5 cents, 0.05. And if you go up, in a way, you're actually subtracting 0.05. So this would be 40 cents, then 35 cents, then 30. And on the left column, your independent is your number of minutes on the phone, and they're just increasing by ones. The key to writing a function in 3b is actually identifying this constant rate of change. So I have the changes here in my y values. That's 5 cents. Over the change in my x values, which is 1. So 5 cents is my slope. And that's the reason why for slope-intercept form, I write m as 0.05. So on your table, your first common difference is your slope. Now to get the y-intercept, or what you start with, this is your this is when your x value or your independent is 0. So always go backwards till you have 0 here, if possible. So in this case, if you go all the way back down to 0 minutes, well, you're actually charged 30 cents for the phone call. So 30 cents is your y-intercept. Either of these two answers would be acceptable. This is in slope-intercept form. This is a better one. This is in function notation rule. Question number 2, how many minutes can you talk for $4? Well, the question is how many minutes. We'll solve for m. There's the question there, and this is what they've given you, $4. Well, if your total cost is a function of minutes, so there's $4, and here you're just going to solve for m, so you're going to subtract 30 from both sides, and I'll get $3.70 equals 0.05 m. Then the question you might think about is how many nickels are in $3.70? Well, when you do the math there, you'll get your nickels to equal 74. Question number 4. I ask you to graph this equation, 2x plus y equals 3. This is called standard form of linear functions. Notice how it's not in slope-intercept form. To get this in slope-intercept form, you just need to make y equals. So when I subtract 2x from both sides, I get y equals negative 2x plus 3. That means my positive 3 is my y-intercept right here. And I have a slope of negative 2. So negative 2 over 1 means I have a rise of negative 2. A rise of negative 2 means going down, then right 1. Down 2, right 1. Down 2, right 1. Question number 5. Fill in the blanks so that each row and each column contain all the digits 1 to 3. Numbers in cages may repeat as long as they are not in the same row or column. So notice I have the numbers 1 to 3. The numbers 1 to 3, they're not repeating, and numbers 1, 2, and 3. Also in the columns, I have the numbers 1 to 3, 1 to 3, and 1 to 3. Notice how all the values are positive and none of them are negative. Then you have in your box 1 and 3. If you subtract these, they will equal 2. If I add these two values, they will equal 3. This one is by itself, and that's a freebie, so all you had to do is write the number 3. I need two numbers that will subtract to be 1, that is 2 and 1, and I need two values when you subtract them equal 1. Remember, there is no negative values. That page is worth 20 points, as you can see there in the bottom right. Let's go on to question number 6. Question 6A to 6G, use Jennifer's jogging log to answer your questions. The first part is multiple choice. The graph shows the relationship between the number of hours Jennifer spent jogging and the total number of miles she jogged. Which table represents the data in the graph? So I'm just supposed to match one of my tables with the graph. Well, if you look at it, it's approximately 1 and maybe a little bit more than 5. Some of you guys actually thought that was 5. Well, if that was the case, that would have been 2 hours would have gotten you 10 miles. But notice how that's not the case, right? It's a little bit more. 3 minutes, maybe between 15 to 20. And for 4 hours jogging, she could probably go less than 25. So the only one that shows that is C. 6B says identify the independent variable. The independent variable is always the x-axis. In this case, that is time. 6C says identify the dependent variable. Well, the total distance you travel depends on how many hours you jog. So distance is your dependent variable. 6D says identify the slope. Well, your slope here is just your common difference. Notice how I have a 6 here. Over here it's a 1. So you're going to get 6 over 1. Common mistake I saw was a fraction, 1/6. That would have been incorrect. The slope is 6 miles for every 1 hour. 6E says identify the y-intercept or the initial value. Well, you have to think back to 0. So you can either here subtract 6 and then subtract 1 over here, and you'll realize when she has not jogged time 0 hours, she's gone a total distance of 0. So there would be a dot right here. So 6E is 0. To write a function rule for the graph, I have slope-intercept form here, y equals mx plus b. My slope is 6, and my initial point is 0, so y equals 6x would have been correct. We don't need to write the 0 there. Also, function rule you can have as d of h equals 6h. Question 6G, how far can she run in 4 hours? Well, distance is a function of hours, so if you have 4 hours, every h value I'm going to substitute in 4. Here's an h value, I'm going to substitute in 4. 4 times 6 is 24, I add that to 0, so then 4 hours she can run 24 miles. Question number 7 is just function notation. Every x value you're going to put in a -3. There I see an x, I put in -3. Here's another x, I put in -3. When they're right next to each other, like over here, this is multiplication, -5 times x. So this is -5 times -3. That's not -5 minus 3. So -5 times -3 gives me positive 15. 15 plus 8 gives me 23. F of -3 equals 23. And I made an extra credit question. There's your acronym for school-wide expectations. P for prepared, R for respectful, I for invested, D for dependable, and E is for engaged. I hope this will help you be successful on your next quiz.